Well, as I said at the top of the show, the Pentagon has launched a review into the AUKUS submarine deal to ensure it aligns with President Trump's America First agenda. Defence Minister Richard Marles was asked about this earlier today, and he says he's not worried at all.
We've known about the review for some time. We welcome it and we will engage with it. It's a very natural step for the incoming administration to take. I do have a sense of confidence about the way in which AUKUS is playing out under the Trump administration and that we will meet the pathway that we have committed to.
Joining me now is Strategic Analysis Australia Director Michael Shoebridge. Michael, do you think we should be worried?
Yes, I do, and I think it's disturbing to hear that from Richard Marles. I would say the government's really got to get its story straight on AUKUS and the Trump administration. When Richard Marles met with the Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth back in February and handed over a suitcase full of cash, he came out of the meeting telling us everything was on track, everything was rock solid. In fact, Donald Trump was right behind AUKUS. And now he's telling us, actually, an American review of AUKUS that says, does it meet America First goals and are we lifting our collective security weight, is entirely normal and expected. You know, what's the right story here? These are different things.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out whether if I'd put a $500 million down payment on something, only for the person to review it, whether I'd welcome the review, as Richard Marles just said. The US Undersecretary of Defence...
remember...
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, remember, that suitcase of 800 million Australian dollars was handed over without a contract and without a receipt. There's no strings attached. So no wonder Pete Hegseth was smiling at the time. But it's a serious thing, this review, because America First, what's that lens look like looking at this AUKUS deal? Well, however you look at the AUKUS submarine deal, it means America weakens its own submarine force to strengthen ours. They're giving us 3 of their own submarines from their own Navy, and they don't build the numbers back until 2040. So they take about a 10-year loss in their own capability. That's the America First side.
Indeed. Now, all of this comes as new data reveals Australia's ranked 15th in the world when it comes to spending on defence. Our defence budget is about $55.7 billion, which is less than half that of the UK, Saudi Arabia, Poland, and of course India. And we're spending 10 times less than China on defence. Do these figures just demonstrate further how urgent it is for the government to boost spending on defence, as the Trump administration have been calling for?
Well, Australia shouldn't be forced by America into investing enough in our own security. This is a national embarrassment. And I know the Prime Minister wants to say it's a source of sovereign pride for us to not invest enough in defence and free ride on America. That's not how this review is going to see things. The other part of this review is saying, is Australia stepping up to meet its collective defence obligations? And that is partly about how much are we spending. And when the Americans look at us telling ourselves and them we can afford the modern defence force we want plus nuclear submarines for 2 to 2.3% of GDP, to quote that famous Australian movie, The Castle, tell them they're dreaming. You know, America can do mathematics and they know we're kidding ourselves and them with the current level of spending.
Just before I let you go, I wanted to ask you about unfolding events in the Middle East. Donald Trump confirmed today that non-essential staff and their families from US embassies and military bases in the Middle East have been withdrawn. That's as nuclear talks with Iran break down. How imminent is an Israeli attack on Iran? And what are the likely shockwaves if and when that occurs?
Well, gosh, this is something we can't know. And I think there's no way the US or Israel will say, yes, we're striking Tehran's nuclear facilities on Monday. But America withdrawing non-essential personnel and families out of the Middle East is either brinksmanship to bring Iran to the negotiating table properly. I don't think that'll work. Iran is used to brinksmanship. Or It's Trump having given a green light to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to do what the Israelis want and strike the Iranian facilities. Or Trump has finally lost patience with the Iranians and feels like he's looked weak with Putin, he's looked weak on trade with Xi Jinping, he's even looked weak against the Houthis. Maybe this is a time he wants to remind people he and America need to be taken seriously. So it could be any one of those things. But, to me, a really important factor is Trump has told everyone his career long that he's someone who stops wars and doesn't start them.
What's that old expression, Michael? May you be cursed to live in interesting times. I think that's our lot in life right now. I appreciate you joining me tonight. Thank you so much.